Hello friends, in this video we are going to talk about library classes. So you know that in Java everything exists in the form of classes and objects. So in the Java language we have quite a huge library of pre-written classes. Okay, so when I say huge, it is really huge. Okay, so just to give you a perspective, let's look at the official documentation and see all the classes available. Okay, so this is the list of all the classes. So you can see this is quite a big list. Okay, lots and lots of classes are there pre-written in the Java library. So for example, two of the most commonly used classes are system and math. So let's search for the math class. Okay, so if we go down and look for math, so where is our math class? Here. So here you can see the math class is present. Okay, now when I open this link, you will be able to see the detail of the math class. Okay, and this detail in itself is huge. You will be able to see all the functions like POW. It shows you how many parameters it needs, what is the return type, okay, whether it is static or not. Then it complete description is there. Okay, so you see the round function. So here is the overloaded form of the round function. This one takes a float. Okay, so this round takes a float argument and this round takes a double argument. Okay, so you can see the round function is overloaded. So the library is really huge. Okay, let's see the system class. Let's come to the S category and open the system class. So it's taking such a long time just to scroll down. Okay, here is our system class. So let's open this system class. And here is the complete description of the system class. So I hope you are able to realize the vastness of the Java pre-written classes. Okay, so I have already explained you the example, the print line function that we use. Okay, one of the most commonly used function. This print line function is available in the system class. The round function that we use, it's available in the math class. The char at function that we use for extracting character at a certain index, this is available in the string class. Okay. So we'll talk about wrapper classes later. First of all, let us see let us revise the definitions of primitive data type and composite data types. Okay, so primitive data types are the fundamental data types built in the language itself. Okay, and composite data types are constructed with the help of primitive types. Okay, that is a class type. So that is known as composite data type. So for example, if we talk about the string class, this string class is made up of it's made with the help of char, char. Okay, this char is a fundamental data type, isn't it? So with the help of this char data type, the string class has been built. So this is known as composite data type. Okay, and creating objects. What does creating objects mean? How to create objects? Let's see an example. So I have created this shape class. Inside the shape class, I will have a few instance variables. Let's call them L and B of integer type, and then I will have the main function here. Inside the main function, I will create a few objects of the shape class. So let's call it S1. The object is S1. Shape S1 is equal to new shape. Okay, and let us create one more object. Shape S2 is equal to new shape. So I have created two objects, okay, with the help of new operator. Now in the memory we'll have two objects. One is S1. Okay, so this S1 is a reference type. This S1 is a reference type of variable which will store the address of this object, and similarly this S2 also is a reference type which will store the address of this object. Okay, now each of the objects will have their own separate copies of the instance variables. Okay, and they will be initialized with the default values. So all the numeric types will be initialized with 0, the boolean type will be initialized with false, and object types, class types will be initialized with null. Now using the dot operator, I can access the instance variables as well as member functions. So let's create a member function here, void display, which will simply display the value of L and B. So here let's call the display function s1 dot display and s2 dot display. So when we do this, we should be able to see the values of L and B corresponding to both the objects. Okay, so let's compile this and see the output here. So the output you can see is L is 0, B is 0, this is for S1, and L is 0, B is 0, this one is for S2. Okay, now using the dot operator we have accessed the member function. Okay, so similarly we can access the instance variables also. If I write S1 dot L, okay, S1 dot L is equal to 10, and let's say S1 dot B is equal to 20. Then let's say S2 dot L is equal to 30, and S2 dot B is equal to 40. Okay, so using the dot operators I have accessed the instance variables here. This time the output should be different. Okay, I have assigned 10 and 20 to S1's LNB, and to S2's LNB I have assigned 30 and 40. So the output should be 10, 20, 30, 40. So when the display function is called here in this line number 21, the calling object is S1. Okay, so when the control comes to the display function, this L and B will correspond to S1's L and B. Okay, so 10 and 20 gets printed. Now control comes back to the main function, and again the display function is called, and this time the calling object is S2. So the control comes to this function again, and this time this L and B refers to S2's L and B. Okay, so let's see the output. The output should be 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, so as you can see, the output is 10, 20, 30, 40. This one is S2 and this one is S1. So this is how you will create objects and access the member functions and the member variables as well. So what is the difference between primitive data type and composite data type? The first difference is the primitive type, it represents a value. Okay, for example, if I say int x, if I declare a primitive type of variable int x, this x variable will store a single value of int type. Okay, whereas if I create a variable of shape type, okay, so this y variable will store a reference of an object, it will not store the value itself. Okay, whereas here in the primitive case we have the variable storing the value itself. Okay, so this is the first difference. Second difference is that when you copy a variable, when you copy a variable of, let's say we have got int x is equal to 10. Now if I copy this x to y, what will happen? The value of x will get copied to y. Okay, so after the execution of both these statements, in x there will be 10 and in y also there will be 10. Okay, but if we talk about the composite data type, what will happen? Suppose I create shape S1, okay, is equal to new shape. So S1 is holding the reference of this object here. Okay, now if I create another object shape S2, and if I assign S1 to S2, only the reference will get copied. Okay, only the reference of S1, the so if this is S1, right, and this one is the object, so S1 is storing the address of this object. So when I copy the value of S1 to S2, okay, so the address will be copied. That means both S1 and S2 are referring to the same object. So here the address gets copied, not the value. Now let's talk about wrapper classes. Okay, so what are wrapper classes? It simply converts a primitive data type into an object type. Okay, so primitive type, you know that in Java we have got 8 primitive data types. Okay, those 8 primitive data types are not classes. Okay, for example, byte, short, int, long, float and all the other types, they are not classes. So therefore if they are not classes, okay, there will be no objects of this type, isn't it? And if there are no objects, that means we will not have the power, the flexibility of objects. Objects allows, classes allows to create functions which will perform some operation on the given type. So to solve this issue, all the primitive types have their representatives in the form of classes. So byte, the primitive byte, small b, okay, small b. So this byte data type has got its corresponding wrapper class, and it is the capital B, okay, capital BYTE. So this byte, okay, is the wrapper class for the primitive byte. Okay, and since this byte is a class, okay, there will be lots of functions inside this byte class which can perform operations on the byte value. Okay, so let's come back to our documentation here and find out the byte class. Okay, so here we have the byte class. So in this byte class you can see so many functions are there. Okay, byte value, compare to, decode, double value, equals, float value, hash code, innumerable functions are there, innumerable functions. Okay, so by doing this, by creating a class for the primitive type, we have provided additional functionality, okay, which will help the programmer to perform some of the common tasks, okay, like converting from one type to another. So similarly, we have for the short primitive type, we have this capital SHORT. Okay, S is capital, rest is small. Okay, so this capital SHORT, this is the corresponding wrapper class for the short primitive type. Similarly, for int we have integer, for long we have long with capital L, for float we have float with capital F, for double we have double with capital D, for boolean we have boolean capital B, for char we have character. Okay, so let's look at this let's look at this character wrapper class. Okay, okay, so when you look at this wrapper class, character wrapper class, So just look at the list of the functions available here: char count, char value, code point at, okay. So digit, for digit, okay, get name, get numeric value. So once you have created the class for this corresponding char primitive type, you can obviously create so many functions which will help to perform some operation on that character value. So I hope you get the concept of wrapper classes. So that's it. I'll stop here in this video, and in the next video I will discuss the different functions of a few wrapper classes, okay, important functions. So let's stop here. Thank you.